Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing this morning? Today is a terrific Tuesday. Got some people popping in, about 20 in the audience already. Dan, Dalton, Will, Mia, Kelby, Odd, Nomi, Michael, Steve, Faro, Pansy, Yisrael, Roan, Iman, Cleo, CeeLo. Good morning, everybody. We meet every single day, Monday through Friday, to talk about our businesses, help one another, answer questions, and share. Today, I'm going to talk to you all about what's going on in my business. I posted about it yesterday in the Closers Only channel. But long story short, I have a seller that is looking to back out of an agreement that they signed with me. And I am going to file a memorandum. So I'm going to share that process and what that looks like. Yesterday, Dan had an amazing podcast not a podcast, live stream, step by step wholesaling. Over 100 people joined. Was incredible to see. I think a lot of people were getting a lot of value from that call. Today is day 2 for Dan. He's going to do it again. And I think he's going every day, Monday through Friday for you all. So it's going to be very exciting. I think there are a lot of people that, have really been on the fence, really trying to learn about wholesaling for a while now. And truly the types of opportunities that they have here, just to be in proximity with a power player, somebody like Dan, to actually show them step by step how to wholesale, that's unheard of. I think I saw Drew hop up on the stage. I was in the trenches myself, man, just making the calls yesterday. Mr. Matt Riley joining us today. Sebastian asked if I was able to file the memorandum yet. Not yet. I'm going to do that today, though. I know that they're not going to close in the next 24 hours, but I'm going to definitely be able to get something assigned or get something filed here before they get it assigned, if they even get it assigned. But this is exciting. I want to open this up, for the people that are in here. Um, how many of us have actually already closed a deal? I want to start really handing out these check marks to people that are actively doing this business. I want to make sure that everybody in here that's actively closing deals has that check. I don't know. I want to do a head count to see if there's any more people in here that are closing deals. Good morning, Miss Mia. Cleo Investor. CeeLo, not Cleo. CeeLo Investor. When I begin my cold calling, set up a Google Voice, right? Not personal number. Don't use your personal number for cold calls. Big Play J asks for me to explain what filing the memorandum will do for everyone. That's a great topic. So the memorandum is essentially going to cloud the title, meaning they would not be able to close on the deal because I have a lien essentially on the property that has to be fulfilled before they can get clear title. And so I'm going to put this memorandum in place because the seller is no longer performing on their side after they've signed a legally binding agreement with me. And I don't know what it is about these other wholesalers that this guy really wants to work with them. They've clearly drug him around. 2 days before they were supposed to close, they listed the property on the MLS. When I called them, they said they didn't have a buyer. I don't know. But this guy, got me involved. He started, having me allocate time, and I told him very clearly multiple times, we don't pull strings, allocate time, send anyone anywhere until we have an agreement from you in place. He understood that, signed the agreement because he wanted to move forward with us. And then after this, he's saying pretty much he doesn't want to do that anymore. I don't know why. But nevertheless, I have already invested time into the deal, and I'm going to stand firm on this one. This is a good spread. Sebastian suggests it would also be good to call up the title company they are planning to go with and letting them know that you have equitable interest, as it usually takes a couple days or even weeks for the documents recorded at the county to show. This is a great suggestion, Sebastian. I appreciate you letting me know that. ASAP Youngin, yes, that guy did give the other wholesaler more time. I think these people are truly distressed. And, it goes to show people can get on the phone and they'll offer you outrageous numbers. But then when it comes down to it, they're not going to be able to get the property assigned at the price point that they're saying that they're going to purchase and close the property for. They've already not performed. Nothing's going to change. The only thing that's going to change is he's going to waste more time. And by that time, he's going to be even in a more distressed situation. And by that time, they're going to price drop him because they realize that they cannot get the property sold at the price point that they have it under contract for. Meanwhile, the seller the whole time is desperately thinking like, oh, they're going to close and I'm going to make more money working with these guys that don't even have the experience to close a deal. Good morning, Dan.
Hola, buenos
¿Cómo
días.
estás? Buen día. ¿Qué onda? ¿Todo bien?
You lost me. I'm gone.
Oh, awesome. Qué pena. Um, Not a lot of people raising their hands letting me know they're closing deals. I think it's about the same. People in here. I want to talk to people in here then and figure out, why is it you show up to these calls every single day? What are you trying to get out of the group? Why are you a part of REI Rev?
Are you just staying busy or are you being productive? Two different things. Don't be that guy that goes to the gym just to have a social hour. You know what I mean? Make sure you're there to actually work out. That's why I tell people, like, if you come in the live stream and you're watching me in the live streams, like, don't just come in there and just watch me for entertainment. You know what I mean? Come in there and, watch me and work alongside me. You know, what I mean that's why we're doing this. If you guys aren't doing that, then it's not, then the goal of what we're trying to help you guys achieve is not going to be done. So, you know, um, the whole goal of what we're trying to accomplish is trying to get you guys, you know, in there doing deals alongside.
We got Miss Lonnie joining us. Good morning, Miss Lonnie.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. Good morning, Dan. Good morning, everyone.
What's up?
Um, I'm kind of really going through it right now. Starting this year, I made a commitment to myself to really be on top of, cold calling and follow-ups with my leads because I'm really determined to make it this year. But since those two purchase agreements that I had and they didn't fall through at all, it just makes me question myself. Like, is wholesaling dead? And if it's not, like, is it even meant
Mm.
to happen for you? It's tough seeing other people win, but I know
What
2 months is
you want to know
is
something,
a lot
Lonnie?
of, yeah.
You want to know something? You know how many deals I
What?
locked up before I had one finally close?
How many?
I think almost five. I think almost five. I locked up five. And I actually lost EMD on my first ever contract that I locked. Actually, second contract that I locked up. Second contract that I locked up, I lost EMD.
Oh my God. How much was it?
So
If you don't mind me asking.
it wasn't that much. It was like $500. I remember at the time, man, I didn't even have really. I really didn't even have $500 to really put down. I remember I opened up escrow and put down EMD. I was working. I was working on the deal with a girl who was an agent out in Ohio because the deal was out in Ohio, and I was working with her, and she's a friend of mine. And I said, "Hey, can you split the EMD with me?" You know, and she did. So we both lost like 250.
Oh wow.
Um, but you know, I mean, it happens. Like, um, you know, I learned a lot. Luckily, the people that I was working with, they were all investors. All these people that I was logging up their deals, you know, what I'm saying they were all investors. So they knew they were playing the game with me. They knew kind of what I was doing, and I was just figuring it out. Um, and then another time, I'm gonna tell you guys a story. So another time, I had this deal in Jacksonville, Florida, and I drove all the way up to Jacksonville from Tampa, and I don't know if you guys know how far of a long drive that is, but that's a hell of a long drive. And I drove up there just to go see the property myself and get pictures because I was so determined. I was like, man, this is a deal. I know this is a deal. And the guy just, he played me like a violin. You know, what I mean, he was a ex-con, and I don't even think he really even had rights to sell the property, 100%. Like his name was attached to it, but something like in terms of like
Sounds familiar.
the actual title, yeah, the actual title, he didn't really like because he had been to prison or something like that. I don't know, but like basically, I told him I was like, hey man, if I come up there, I knew he was hard on cash, and I didn't really have a whole lot of cash at that time. But I knew he was harder on cash than I was. I said, hey man, I'll give you $100 if you let me, walk the property. I mean, that way you don't lose time or anything like that. And I thought I was really playing. I was really trying to be creative because he was kind of playing me on the contract. I brought the contract with the paper all the way up to Jacksonville. Had a buyer meet me there, um, and I was so sure this thing was going to be a deal. And as we were leaving, the buyer told me, he said, "Man, you know, really, there's not enough spread on this thing for me. This house is a mess." I was so crushed. I had paid that guy $100. Um, I don't think he even really cared about the $100. I paid him anyways because I told him I would, and he was kind of like not all there. But anyways, I lost $100 on that deal, and he wouldn't drop the price. He ghosted me, and I couldn't close. Um, so I filed a memorandum on that house though, and 2 years later, it finally closed. Somebody finally bought it. I made 10K off that deal. So funny enough, speaking about the memorandum, filed a memorandum, because he didn't want to close, he didn't want to drop the deal, and he didn't want me to close or whatever. But I held on to that thing, and 2 years later, somehow, it came back. Um, but yeah, it just that's the game. You know what I mean? It's really the game, and nothing worth having is easy getting.
Hmm, that's a fact. You said, Lonnie, you're feeling a little discouraged, and you're kind of questioning yourself if you're cut out for this, or if it's even meant to happen for you. But the
Right.
reality is, you've got to make it happen for you. There's nobody that can make this happen for you. You're already Lonnie REI. You've made your name REI. You can make a deal. You've got to just keep calling. Maybe you have to reevaluate the way that you're getting your leads, getting in front of people, getting on the phones with people, see if there's a way you can optimize your business. But and this is something that hit me last night because I was watching a just a random YouTube video popped up on my feed. I usually don't watch just anyone, but I've been kind of watching more like the raw content lately from people. And this one guy said, he said, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking that they're too good for certain work. Like you make a lot of money, now you're saying, oh, well, this is beneath you, cold calling beneath you. And that's how you can miss out on a lot of money because you're not willing to keep doing the work. So that really made me reconsider, some of the things that I'm doing in my business. And I think I'm going to make some adjustments because I just need to be doing more. And with that being said, I don't think that you should take this as a discouragement, like you should quit. I think that the game, when you decide to play, is going to see if you're really about it. And the people that really succeed in the business go through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of difficulty, because that's where skill is created. That's where experience is gained. And if you are willing to roll with the punches and pave that path, you're going to end up where you want to go, but it is going to be a bit of a journey to get there. And so you really got to ask yourself, and I think this goes for anybody that's setting out on the journey, maybe hasn't made the first call, maybe made a few calls, that's feeling, like they don't want to make more. You got to, because that's the only way to get to where you want to go.
Appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
No, that's why I mean that's why I'm doing this series, right? That's why I'm doing this series because I really want to show you guys the brawl. You know what I'm saying? I really want to show you guys really, the grind and the grit that it really takes. I think a lot of people glamorize this space. You know what I mean? E-commerce is glamorized. You know what I mean? All this stuff is glamorized. Drop shipping glamorized. Wholesaling glamorized. It's not. But the reality is that this stuff really isn't glamorous at the end of the day. And no matter what you decide to do, it all takes grit and grind, and it's all about just how you want to make money. I mean, bottom line is there's a lot of people that get uh you know they get involved in these things thinking that they're going to have the same results they see somebody else making. But what's crazy is I think a lot of people, and I don't know if John can say the same thing, but I feel like a lot of people that you see who post checks and all stuff, they never post the whole situation. Like I know a lot of people that post stuff up and it's not even the whole picture. Like they'll post a wire transfer, but what they don't tell you is that they lost 80% of that wire transfer because they were breaking it down to six other people that they daisy chained this thing with, or they spent way too much in marketing to make a little tiny little shred of money off of, like, just to put a check up, right? um you just never know what the full story is. So I just tell myself, don't ever worry about what someone else is doing, because the reality is that you know the internet, you don't really know if something's ever really real. Like, you could see somebody driving around in a $500,000 car on their Instagram, and it turns out, you really dig into it, they don't own the car. It's their buddy's car. They borrowed it for a shoot, and they did a video in it, and they, said, borrowed some, a suit that they got from their friend or whatever, and it's like, and meanwhile, you're thinking, and they're getting out of the car. I'm 21. I just made $10 million and blah 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 blah. There's really not that many people doing that, and most of these people that are making those videos are full of shit. Like, I know because they all live down here in Miami where I live, and most of them are full of shit. Like, it's not you're not the only person who's not making the money that you want to make. Like, don't consume yourself with those thoughts. Like, don't look at some 19-year-old that's in an Instagram video and he's telling you he makes all this money. Meanwhile, he's just trying to sell you on a drop shipping course that he didn't really have any experience in. It's like, if he really was making all that money in drop shipping, he wouldn't be worried about trying to make you and sell you on a course. He would just be doing his drop shipping business and investing more into that. Um, the thing is, like, people get sold on that, though. What I mean? I'm not out here trying to sell a course. What I mean? I'm showing you guys exactly what to do, instead, because my money comes from my businesses. So I want to bring more money back into my businesses. I don't need to go sell a course because a course is not my business right now, right? My business is the things that it's producing me income, and those are the things that I'm going to spend my time in doing. I had a lot of people come to me and say, "Man, why don't you have a course yet? Why don't you have a course yet?" I said, "Because why would I go and take away time from the things that are currently making me money and go put that in something else that, maybe may or may not be make me as much money? Why wouldn't I just take that time and take my money and go put it into the things that have already proven to make me money and just keep building on those things?" Right? So it's just like I feel like a lot of people that sell a course or sell a idea or sell a dream, what they're really doing ultimately is they're almost bringing a lot of people down, because a lot of people get into these funnels and stuff thinking that they're going to watch these videos or listen to this course and they're going to copy and do this exact same thing. It's like that's not reality, right? It's like I said in the live stream yesterday, a lot of these courses don't show what I'm showing in the live stream day to day. They don't show the difficulties. Like they don't talk about what Lonnie's talking about. They don't talk about what John just talked about with his seller, backing out and pulling in and backing out again, right? Like they don't talk about that. They literally just tell you the highlights of what's going on. And then meanwhile, when you mess up or you're not getting those highlights, then you think something wrong with you. Meanwhile, the whole
Right.
thing is that there was just something missing in the course, and the thing that's missing is the reality piece, and that's the most important part. So, just keep that in mind. Don't let any of you guys don't get down on yourself because you haven't closed that first, you know, $20,000 check or 50, $30,000 check, right? Like it's going to come, right? But the only way that you take yourself out of the game is to take yourself out of the game. You don't want that $20,000 check. Easy way to not get it is just to quit. That's the easiest way to not get it. The only way to get it is just to keep going and fix the things that are maybe messing you up as you go through. It's like you don't look at a deal that you didn't do and say, man, I think I'm just done. What you need to do is you got to look at that deal and say, what can I learn from this deal so I don't take it into the next deal? Like, I don't think I think everybody in here is right, has been in a relationship, right? Everybody in here has been in a relationship with somebody in a romantic way, no matter what your sexual orientation is or whatever. We've all in here been in a relationship with somebody. We've all probably broken up or been broken up with at some point in our lives. Did any do you would any of you ever go into a situation like that and say like, man, that's just it. I'll never be with anybody ever again. That was it. No, no, no. You might have thought that for like 5 seconds, but next thing you know, you're back out there again, getting in the same situation, right? You wouldn't do that in that situation, right? So why are you going to take yourself away from self improvement and making the money that you deserve to make, right? You came this far. Don't take away your ability to finish it by taking yourself out the game.
Wow, that's the motivation that I think a lot of us needed.
The truth.
It's not even motivation. It's just real. Yeah, it's just the truth. I mean, it's just the truth. It's not about motivation. It's just you just don't think about that because social media and all this other bullshit. It ruins the picture of the reality, right? It's why here in REI Rev is real people, real estate. That's the reason being is because it's we're showing you guys really how it really like it is. It's real.
I appreciate you, Lonnie, for putting yourself out there and not only today's show, but also coming up, making calls, and just being an example for people to see. I don't know if you really recognize that about yourself, but you're also a leader. To these people to actually see somebody in the arena is different than being somebody watching the contestant.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's just kind of hard to think about I think I was thinking about this the other day where once you've really put in a lot of time and you've done a couple deals, it's hard to kind of put yourself back in the same mental frame that you were first in before
Mhm.
you had the experience because now it's like a variable that you can only obtain through time in the game. And it's kind of hard to take yourself out of that mental state because you already have a lot of the answers because you already made a lot of the mistakes. But I think the main thing that a lot of new people run into is they don't have the answers because they haven't had to get them. They haven't made the mistakes. They haven't put the time in the game. And like Dan is saying, the only way you can really guarantee that you will fail is to quit. And you cannot fail if you do not quit. This business really isn't. I'm gonna be honest, man. This business really isn't something that special. Anybody can do this business. Like we've clearly seen, there are morons that don't know how to perform on deals. Somehow, convincing sellers to continue to give them more time on these agreements. I mean,
Oh
somebody like
yeah.
one of you in the audience that actually has the capacity, to be in proximity with people here, REI Rev, other people actually doing the business that can actually perform. There should be no issue for you to get on the phone, talk to somebody, have a real, valid, authentic conversation with them, understand why they're looking to sell, and then help them out of the situation that they're in. People will do business with you, man. I think that's the number one thing too. Is like imposter syndrome is such a big thing. People don't really feel like they should be on the phone. I think the thing that I struggled with the most when I was first getting started was like I was going too fast on the phone. I was just trying to get to the no. I had a feeling, oh, nobody wants to really do business with me. It was just a limiting belief. No one really wants to do business with me. They're just going to hang up the phone. I'm going to just go for the next no. You have to be prepared for the yes. Somebody is going to want to do business with you. And so when that person arrives, you have to be prepared to be able to handle that conversation, right? So I think that it is also important. One thing we have not really been doing in here lately is like the role play. But when I was getting started, I did do a lot of role play. We would, put ourselves in situations where we would have the yes on the phone. We may have to work for the yes to get the yes, but once we got the yes, what does that look like? Some people get the yes on the phone and they fumble the ball. You don't even know what to say next because you've only heard no, 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 no. So you're programmed to just accept the no and move to the next no. But what happens when you get the yes? Are you ready? That's the real question. When you really get that opportunity, are you going to seize it? So stay prepared. How many of us in here, I want to know, have actually paired up with somebody in the community, maybe done some business, found a partner, somebody they can work with? I think I just want to see more people really take advantage of this type of opportunity. Like there's so many people in here you can get in touch with. There are over 70 people in the audience today alone showing up, 100 people showing up for Dan's step-by-step wholesale every single day. People are you gotta get connected. You've got to get connected. How many of us feel like they understand what I said about we always get the no when we're cold calling on the phone? We're so accustomed to no. How many of us are prepared to hear the yes? I want to see like the truth. How many people are prepared to hear the yes, and how many people are probably not prepared for that yes? Miss Suarez says, I'm connected to great people thanks to this Discord. We connected from the Discord. I connected with Savion from the Discord. Dan from Discord. It was great people. Anybody I want to do business with is probably on the Discord.
Yeah,
Got a
I
couple
met
people.
a lot of people on the Discord
Dan met
that
a
I do
few.
business with currently, that I do consistent business with.
That I was thinking about that
I was
too.
always looking.
That Dispo team, man, through the Discord. That one guy. I don't remember his name. He did the
Oh,
deal with
right
John.
arm.
There it is. And that opened up a door. And so it's like these little connections
That
you
was a
make,
crazy door.
you just
That
never
was a crazy
know.
door.
And now look at you. Look at how that connection affected your entire business. You
Yeah,
can't
no, I
sleep
mean it did. Went
you
crazy.
can't sleep on the connections you can make in here, ladies and gentlemen. You just don't know where they will lead you.
It's it's a crazy experience sometimes, man. Sometimes you don't ever even realize, you don't ever realize that's the things. You just don't ever realize what's gonna be that deciding factor. But I do say that you really have to look at everything like an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like I was wailing on one of my friends because I just wanted him to win so bad, and and I think the whole thing is he just doesn't want to win as bad as I want to see him win, and sometimes it's really hard to deal with people like that. And I was wailing on him Saturday. We had a phone call. He called me up, asking me for advice, and I was letting him have it. And I said, listen, man, I said, because he was complaining about, and I used to do this. Um, I used to have this idea that, man, I'm doing things right. I'm trying to be a good person. I know I'm a good guy. Why am I not making any money? And I know some assholes. They're making money, and I used to get so frustrated with that shit. So I can really get on Lonnie's spaces. I know some people that are real real scumbags. They were making money, and I said, why am I not making any money? I'm trying to do everything right. Is it just that the good guys really finish last? And I went through this whole thing and really conflicted in my mind. You know what? The conclusion that I really came to later on in my life, when I really learned, is that, and I was telling him this. I said, because he was saying the same thing to me, and I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. I said, you don't be a good person because you think good things are gonna happen to you. Don't be a good person just because you think bad things happen to bad people. That's not why we're here. That's not why we're trying to be a good person, right? It's the same thing as, like, a lot of people tell you, don't say that you believe in God just because you're afraid to go to hell. That's not supposed to be the reason, right? You're not supposed to just be afraid of the alternative, so therefore you believe in the other thing, right? You shouldn't just go about things the right way because you think that that's going to lead to something more. Don't be nice to somebody because you want to compliment back, right? Don't get in the elevator with somebody and say, oh man, nice shoes, because you really want them to compliment your shoes.
Hmm.
You should only say that if you really think that you really like their shoes. Hey man, I really like those shoes. That's it. Doesn't matter if they say it back or not. You should feel good about the fact that you relayed that feeling to them. Don't do good business simply because you think that it's going to make you more business. That's not how the world works. And the reality of it is that I had to learn that, right? That good things don't just happen to good people simply because you're doing good things, right? The world favors those who go and get up and take, right? Like that's who it, whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. The world doesn't, it doesn't have a barrier, right? It doesn't allow you not to take or to take because you're good or bad. It doesn't care. The only reality is that you have to go and take and just be good about it, do it the right way, simply because that's the right thing to do. Not because you think, well, if I'm good, good things will happen to me. You got to be a good person simply because that's just what you're supposed to do. And that's where it should end. So make sure that you guys go into each and every business situation like, hey, I'm going to go into each and every business situation with the best intentions, but I'm going to go and put my best foot forward to go take what I deserve and go take what's mine. Because here's the reality, guys. If you guys who are trying to do this thing the right way, if you guys don't pick up the phone, somebody else will, and they might not be trying to do business the way that you're trying to do. So every seller that you don't talk to, you leave that person open to talking to someone who might be doing bad business. So don't even allow that ability for them to lose that option to work with a person who wants to do this business the right way. Pick up the phone and get to work simply because of the fact that you're like, this industry needs more people doing good business the right way, because every seller that I don't pick up the phone and talk to, I risk them talking to someone who's going to, drag them through the mud. So keep going and doing this thing the right way, not because you think something's good's going to happen to you or because you're going to make a certain amount of money. Do it because you know it's the right way to get it done. But it's not going to come to you simply because you're being a good person. Don't help other people because you want something from them later on. Help other people simply because of the fact that you just want to help. Money doesn't just flow to people. Money comes to those who go and get it. And I had a mentor tell me who I hired. He told me in our last call together, he said, listen, you got to go and be the taker because the takers get to decide how much everyone else gets. And what you
Damn.
don't want to do is you don't want to be the person who is on the other side of that with the other person deciding how much you get. If I'm gonna choose one side or the other, I'm gonna be on the side where I decide what other people get because I'm like, if I'm not, then there's gonna be someone else that's gonna do it. And I don't know if they're gonna go about having that position and running that position in the right way, right? So it's my obligation to be the good person that steps into that role. Because if I don't go and take it, somebody who doesn't do business the way that I do it might go and get it instead. Every single one of you in here, you're obligated for success. We need all of you. All of you need to be obligated to achieve. Because if we don't do it, somebody else will. And we just don't know if they're going to do it the right way.
I think that's the message of the day, y'all. We can clearly see that with this Houston, Texas deal. These guys are not doing the business the right way. And I don't know what they told that seller to keep that seller on whatever delusion they've got him on, but they are not doing the business the right way.
At least you reached out to him. You know what I mean? At least you provided the alternative, and that's really all you can do, man. You provided the alternative. He decides to go and work with those people. And that's on them. But we gotta. The bottom line is we gotta provide people the option.
Mr. Ray is calling Mr. Matt Riley up to talk about his creative deal in Anna, Texas. Don't know what the situation is on this deal.
Oh shoot!
Mr. Ray really wants to see Mr. Riley here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. We got Mr. Matt Riley coming up. Good morning, Mr. Riley. Here he is.
Summoned from the dungeons below.
How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Better.
Better. That indicates that you weren't good to begin with.
I was one. I was. I was a little sick earlier. Now I'm much better.
You got that morning time espresso in you.
Yeah.
Um,
What's this?
yeah,
What's
there's
this
not
business
much to
about
talk
this
about with
deal?
that lease option yet. So that was a deal. I have to look at where it even came from. That was a deal. I believe I reached out on a different property, and they were originally not interested. And we had a good conversation back and forth, and that's why I try to keep my composure on these conversations because if if the agent or the seller, whoever it is responsive and they are open minded, that's somebody that I will take the time to have a detailed discussion with in discussing whether it's subject to or lease options or wraps, whatever it is, because it might not come to fruition on that phone call, whatever listing I'm reaching out on, whatever property, we might not do a deal there. But if I handle myself in a way that I don't want to say educate, but if we have a great conversation where they learn something new or they're now open to an idea that they weren't aware of before, maybe not open to before, especially real estate agent, there might be something for me in the future on another listing of theirs. Now, if I introduce something to them that they are unfamiliar with, and you can take this concept for anything, right? Think about politics, even like how heated the argument is between politics. You got one person, you got the other person. You might have a discussion, and if if you come off in a heated way, they're going to go, "Yep, this is exactly why I don't associate with your side, whatever it is." So, on creative, if you're introducing something to somebody that they're already unfamiliar with or maybe opposed to already because of bad information, I'm going to drop this screenshot. I so there's a Facebook group with a lot of members, almost 200,000 members, and there was a post that was created last night from a listing agent, and you'll see it here. So the listing agent talked about how she had received multiple subject to offers for her listing, and as you can see, as of this morning, there's 109 comments. If you go through those comments, there is an overwhelming census from agents that subject to is a scam, it's illegal. All of the interactions that they've had with people up until that point were negative. Therefore, they have a negative connotation about creative finance. So if you interact with people in a way when you're introducing something that's unfamiliar to them, and the second that they're like, I don't know, or that's not this, and you immediately get defensive and tell them they're dumb or tell them that they need to educate themselves and all of these different things, you're only further solidifying that point in their mind for all future conversations that they have in the future. And they're likely going to surround themselves with other individuals that feel that same way. So if you can be that person that opens up their mind on it, and because you're a professional, you're gonna have a professional conversation. You're gonna outline things that maybe they weren't aware of when they had that original opinion. So this person from this morning was an individual that I reached out to on a lease option, and originally not interested. Originally was like they're not interested in creative finance, which I always personally find amusing that like a simple lease option would be considered creative finance. It's like if you rent out your property, is that creative finance? Like I don't understand the point being made there. But we had a great discussion over the phone. I explained things about lease options that he wasn't familiar with because there's a lot of misconceptions on lease options. And now a week later, out of nowhere, he just messaged me this morning on his personal property. Now think, if you're an agent, your seller's property is not yours. You want to do right by them, but that's not your personal property. So you don't really, as long as they're making an educated decision, you're okay with it. You don't care. But on your personal property, that's a big step in trust and commitment and things like that. So that goes to show that the conversation that we had, it was like a 30-minute detailed conversation, proved enough positive points that he's willing to trust me with his personal property to do a lease option. A real estate agent who, for all intents and purposes, probably has the ability and resources to do it himself. What do you need me for? You could probably go get an attorney to draft up the paperwork. You could list it on the MLS. You can do things that I'm going to do. But for you to trust me after that conversation, I think is very important. And I think it goes to show again, with a lot of things that you're maybe talking to with listing agents and sellers, and especially if you're going down the creative finance rabbit hole with these individuals, you're likely introducing things that they are unfamiliar with. And if you take the time and don't make them feel dumb, don't tell them they need to go educate themselves and that you're the educator when you've only been in real estate for 6 months and you just learned about this thing, so you probably have no idea. But regardless, if you can take the time and nurture that, you will only set yourself up for better things in the future for that individual. That individual now will feel better or more informed. They'll go defend this thing, because there are, out of that 109 comments, there are a lot of people that have negative things to say about creative and subject to, but there are also agents in there who have had good experiences with wholesalers and investors on subject to and creative finance. So they're in there defending the subject matter. And that's what you want to create. You want to create more allies on your side than enemies. The way that you will create enemies is going into those conversations defensively, like you know everything and they'd be dumb not to accept your offer. Oh, you don't want to accept my seller finance offer? You're an idiot. Your seller could make so much more money. Oh, you don't want to accept my subject to offer? You and your seller are idiots because they're going to have to write a check at closing. Some people just don't want to do it. And if you come in with that attitude, they're definitely not going to want to do it. And they're going to draw that line in the sand and dig their feet in even harder, that they don't want to do it, because now you are associated with everybody. Now, when they think of wholesalers or investors, that conversation is what they think of now. Every time they think about the subject, oh yeah, I talked to a guy last week. He was an absolute asshole and didn't give, whatever they're going to think of it. And now that's the future of everything that they associate it with. So I think the best thing you can do is try, if this person is already open and receptive. Of course, there's going to be people that just don't want to hear about it at all, and that's fine. That's their business. But take the time with people who want to take the time with you to learn about it.
I think that that's a
So
huge testament to the amount of rapport you were able to build with that individual on the phone for them to want to sell their personal property to you through a new concept that you introduced to them.
yeah, and I think it's again, it's one of those things you guys kind of touch on. It's a testament to experience, right? Like, we can all read as many books as we want. We can all join as many discords and forums and whatever else. But there's also an element to experience that you won't get from the books and you won't get from these things. And um, that comes into play. But yeah, I mean, I've had agents also tell me, like, why would we need you? I'll just be able to do it. And I'm like, you probably could, but do you have the legal agreements that are needed? Do you have the disclosure agreements? Do you have the, acknowledgement agreements? Do you have the predatory lending like, do you have these things? Or are you just a know-it-all agent who thinks that, oh, I can just sign a rental agreement? So it goes both ways, but this guy was great on the phone. He was never disrespectful to me. So you get respect from me because you're not disrespecting me. You came to me, you know, above board and saying, "Hey, I just don't think this guy's going to be interested. Here's why." No problem. That's probably not going to be a good fit for him, to be honest, if he needs all of his money up front or whatever it is. So being fully transparent, I'm not going to waste your time and whatever. But and then he said, "But I do have questions on it." Okay, great. Let's talk about those questions. I have time because you're asking me. I have time because, again, selfishly, maybe this will be good for me in the future. And maybe unselfishly, now he knows something else to help future people on other listings and things like that. And that's only good for the market. It's only good for everybody involved. Again, to have that positive interaction. Think about anything else. You go to the grocery store, like Dan was saying, somebody compliments your shoes or whatever it is. And it's just one of those random events that take place. You're at a drive-through and someone pays for your order. What does that feeling give you when you leave that scenario? You're like, oh man, that was pretty dope. Like, that made me feel good, makes you want to go pay for the other person's order. It's that pay it forward mentality that relates to everything that we do. And especially in business, doing good business with good people and having as much good interactions as possible. Obviously, we all get frustrated and get burned out and things like that. So you can't be perfect all the time, but trying to present ourselves as professionals in those scenarios will reap benefits. So, like, the individual that came up this morning and saying like, is this thing, I'm burned out, I'm not getting deals, whatever. It's that repetition and consistency. And if you do it that way, it'll always, bear fruit in the future.
Seeing this?
Yeah. Yeah. I posted that in the, Greg, you're probably part of. Greg's an agent too. Greg is actually somebody that I don't specifically remember, but we interacted on one of his listings, and he's probably, I would guess, a part of the group that the screenshot I just posted, because it's a primarily agent based group. And so he's probably part of it. And I actually posted that screenshot in there, which is anybody doesn't know, anybody that says subject to is a scam, it's illegal. There's a lot of things to say to that. It's a ridiculous statement, but anybody that's been paid in here through a through a title company has received a HUD-1 or a settlement statement of some sort that looks like this. And depending on what version you're looking at, line 203, and I think it's now like line 5 something in Texas and other settlement statements, but it says existing loans taken subject to. So if it's illegal or a scam, why does every title company in the country, every licensed title company in the country, explicitly put on their settlement statements that every party involved in the transaction receives and gets compensated from? Real estate agents, sellers, buyers, everybody that is involved in that transaction receives a settlement statement. And on that settlement statement, it says existing loans taken subject to. So agents and all of these people that recite the same thing saying it's a scam and are illegal, I always ask them, if you're a performing agent, look at the very last closing that you had, get that settlement statement and locate it on there. It's on there. Most agents don't look at it though, because they only look at their part of the settlement statement where it talks about their commission. So other the miscellaneous or whatever that is at the bottom where it says Keller Williams receives $10,000. That's all they look at. They don't look at all the other stuff. But if they were to look, they would see that on there. So that's a conversation for another day. But Greg is probably a part of that group, and I posted it in there, and it is what it is.
I think a lot of these agents may be thinking that subject to is a scam because there may be, some individuals selling a course around that, and they're probably not.
So that was referenced a lot in that 109. I don't want to say a lot, but that was referenced multiple times in those comments, and people by name were being referenced, and um, so which is crazy because that shows marketing is very effective. It shows brand awareness is very effective, and it shows the transcendence of the wholesale investing side now colliding and actually crossing over into the traditional real estate uh, side to real estate agents, to where prior to that, your standard real estate agent wouldn't know who that individual was. They wouldn't know these things, but because of the power of marketing and social media and all of these things that get combined, now it's actually where those people know who that is. And unfortunately, they're not in the same circles as we are. They're not, doing the things that we do. So when they hear about it or hear about that person, they still automatically think negative things. And I'm not here to say anything positive or negative about specific individuals. But there is a huge testament to, again, it's with anything else, right? You hear about something one time, and then you go tell all your family and friends, everybody that you work with, like, oh yeah, that thing. But you talk about it like you have hundreds of hours of personal experience with it when you heard it from somebody else one time, and now that's fact. And it's like, well, what's your like the due on sale clause with, that got brought up a lot, and asking people like, what's your personal experience with the due on sale clause? Well, I've never, but I heard. It's like, exactly. So it's just like there's a lot of stuff that gets bad news travels faster than good news. Fake news travels faster than good news. So it's exactly that, and it seeps into real estate and what we do. So again, just trying to always, very hard for me in that comment section, but trying to conduct myself in a way that what I was saying had the best chance of actually like penetrating. And if I could go in there guns blazing and be like, you're all idiots, it's not a scam, it's not illegal, and just really go at them aggressively, but that's not going to do anything That's not going to push anything forward. That's not going to move any needles. It's just going to solidify what they already think. But if I go in there and I actually drop screenshots like that, and I come from a more educational style, personal experience, you guys are all talking about things you have no personal experience with. I've done 70 of these just in the last 8 months. I have 10 years of experience with this thing. Ask me, and I will tell you from real personal experience what you're saying, and I'll show you why it's incorrect in the most professional, respectful way possible. Uh, so I got into it with a guy in the comment section, of course. We went back and forth like 15 times. I actually invited him. I told him to DM me because I was like, we do a morning call every morning, and I would love to have you on, and we could talk about this live in front of the audience. And I'm sure they would love to hear your side of it and your point of view on creative finance subject to. And I would love for that to happen. And then I woke up this morning to check, and he deleted our entire thread. So I was a
Wow,
little
that
disappointed.
gave me an idea, Matt. That gave me an idea. We've been kind of talking about the idea of getting more agents in here, right? We need more agents in here. I think I want to send out like a cold email blast to agents, and I've been thinking like, okay, well, what's going to be the main appeal? I think it would be good for more agents to come in here, and I know you've got a show that you're, cooking up. You want to do something creative. I want them to see, the morning call that we do, and then if they want, to dive a little bit deeper into what is creative finance and how subject to is actually relevant and how it can actually help their sellers. I think that would be a good email subject line, to try to get their attention. Because I don't know, I think that a lot of agents have an opinion about it, but they're not really educated. And so I think that would make them click it. And then from there, if we can get them to click that, drive some traffic into here, have them sign up.
And that's why, and not, I don't have a million followers. I don't have, but I know that because of the experience I have and because I can talk on the subject matter with a lot of personal experience, I know that it's important for me to interact with those individuals in a specific way because I know that if I go in there aggressively and things like that, it's going to further turn them off. And I thought the same thing too, like building relationships with agents, as much as we all have our issues with agents at certain times, building relationships with agents is very important because it can bring repeat business. Like again, a seller, you do a deal with a seller, that seller might have again bought that property 20 years ago and has never touched a piece of real estate since then. So you do a good transaction with them. That's great. You should, even if it's a one-off and you'll never do business with again, you should always do good business with that person, regardless if it results in any future business. But that's likely a one-off thing. It's never going to happen again with that seller. They'll say that they'll refer you to other people, but they likely don't really know anybody that's going to use you or whatever. But a real estate agent, they are actively involved in real estate on a day-to-day basis. They are constantly talking to sellers. They are constantly talking to buyers. They're marketing. They're going on listing appointments. They are actively involved in the business. And so to build good relationship with them, you're doing good business, which you should do, but it also has the potential of resulting in future business for you if you do it the right way. So, like I said, I understand that it was important for me to talk a certain way and not come off that way. And there was actually a time where I thought where I was going to do agent outreach just for the idea of introducing seller financing creative to them. Like, hey, do you understand enough about it? If not, let's work on some sort of, I hate calling it education, but think about how many more sellers that you can help if you understood it more. And so, do you understand seller financing? If not, let's teach you underwriting. Let's teach you all of the ins and outs of seller finance so you can have that educated conversation with your sellers at your listing appointments on your stale listings that have been on the market for 30, 60, 90 days. And instead of doing a price reduction or seller credits or all the other stupid stuff that agents, always all the creativity agents know about is price reductions and seller credits. That's it. That's the extent of their creative finance. And both of those things result in less money in a seller's pocket. You're stealing equity away from that seller because you don't know anything else, and that's okay. But can we teach you more so that way you can further benefit this seller and other sellers in the future? So let's teach you seller financing. So now you can add it into the listing description and draw more eyeballs to every single listing that you have. This house is for sale, and it's also offered at seller finance. And here's the seller finance terms because I understand as an agent seller finance, so I can include this in here, and I can have an educated conversation with that seller when we're on the listing appointment. Creative finance, how many agents list low equity, no equity properties, and the end result is either a short sale or that poor seller writing a big fat check at closing that pays out closing costs and agent commission. So the agent walks out with money, a commission check, and the seller had to write that check for them. Nobody really feels good in that scenario. A seller or an agent doesn't really walk out with a smile on their face knowing that they received $5, 10, $15,000 in a commission, knowing that it came out of a seller's pocket, literally writing the check, not from their equity, from their actual pocketbook. And that same seller likely sold that house so they can go buy another house. So they had to sell and write a check, and now they got to write another check to go buy a property. What resource did you provide that seller? You listed it on the market for them? And you got fair market value, sure, probably, but there was no real benefit to the seller in that scenario. What if we can structure a subject to or a creative finance transaction done correctly that would actually benefit the seller and leave all parties actually feeling good about that transaction being completed? Same result, you get a commission check, but you feel better because someone else paid it, not the seller. And someone else paid those closing costs on behalf of the seller. And the seller likely even gets to walk away with some money now in this scenario. And we recorded protections for them, or we did it in a trust, or we did a lease option, or we did a contract for deed, something along those lines of creatively, which provided a better outcome for that seller. So why would that not be something that you would want to learn about? And again, it might not work for this seller, but it might work for another one. And it might be good for you and your business, and it might be good for that seller. 5 listing agents might walk out of a listing appointment and go, I can't help that guy. That guy's screwed. He's got no equity. He's got this. He's behind on his mortgage, whatever. And if you're in the same boat as them mentally, you're going to walk out too and go, I don't know how to help that guy. All I know how to do is ask for cash or traditional financing. But if you have other things in your tool pouch that you understand, that'll only be able to help the market even more. So again, there's that negative connotation. I feel like there just needs to be more. Again, even if you learn about it and never use it, or even if you learn about it and you're like, I understand it now. I don't feel comfortable with it. Still, I think there's a gray area, whatever it is, and you never utilize it because you personally don't feel comfortable with it. That's fine. As long as you know it and understand it, that's where the most powerful part. And especially when you're presenting offers, how are you going to present my creative offer if you don't even understand it? And that's where the unfairness comes in too, to the investing side is I can't present an offer to you that you don't understand. How are you going? It's like a game of telephone. By the time I tell you, and then by the time you tell your seller, you're not going to know how to recite that to them. So it's just beneficial to all parties involved.
I think you need to drop something, man. You got to,
So
Matt. I think you owe it to yourself to drop something. Even if you don't want to charge.
I thought Dan was just saying I was thirsty, but because he's dropping $5.
He had to. You see how he took that drink there at the end? He had to get that water out. That man went nonstop. He came up here. He came up here at 2:20. He ended that speech at 2:35. There was maybe a
Damn.
second. There was a second break in between all those words. I was like, man, he is on a roll. Somebody get this man a hose.
My wife was
Somebody
like, I was telling her, I
hose this man down. He is on fire.
was telling my wife last night that I was going back and forth with that guy, and she's like, "Is this what you do when you're up late at night?" And I was like, "Usually no, but I just, yeah, I was fired up after last night, and like I said, it's one of those things where I made a Facebook post where just recently about the one that I posted in here. Just there's just comes a point where when you're actively involved, we're all actively involved in real estate, so we see a lot of things. And on my side of things, on the creative, like cash and wholesale have been around forever. There's really only 2 to 3 ways that you can do a cash deal in terms of like formula. It's a really basic concept. Creative has also been around for a long time, but it's gotten super popular and the notoriety and the marketing and everything involved with it. So on my side, I see so much more, quote unquote, in terms of just a lot of bullshit and a lot of misconceptions. A lot of things like no one's saying cash and wholesaling is a scam or illegal. No one is saying these things about they might say that like cash wholesalers are bottom feeders or that they're preying on old people. The typical shit that they always say. But creative, there's so much misconception. You got agents that are like, I've been licensed for 30 years, and they're saying that. And it's like, well, what have you been doing for 30 years? To being fully honest, I need to know if you're taking this point of view after 30 years of being in real estate. And again, it made me think too, like, I hate that we call like those agents, you're like, you're a real estate agent. It's like, well, real estate is all encompassing, right? There's so many different factors and facets to real estate. It's not just first time home buyer calls me and I go open up a door and write a contract for them. That's just one small fraction of real estate. There's residential, there's commercial, there's creative, there's all of the rental market. There's 100 different ways to do real estate. And we call them real estate agents, but they're not. They're traditional home buyer agents or representatives. When I made a post, it was a hot take, a couple, and it got. It, but I say the average wholesaler is a more well-rounded individual than your average real estate agent, because look at this community just as in a vacuum, the amount of different real estate transactions that we look at on a daily basis. We are comping properties in multiple markets and cities across the country. We are talking to sellers in multiple different markets and cities with multiple different backgrounds and situations. We're doing cash, we're doing creative, we're doing so many different things. We got commercial properties, we got residential, we got multifamily, we're underwriting, we're doing all of these things that the traditional agent isn't doing. They don't have to do it, but they're not doing it on a daily basis. So you could spend 30 years in a profession and still only know one way to do real estate. I got a conversation the other day with a lady who took a very hard stance, and so she was not going to be somebody that wanted to have this conversation. But she told me 3 different times in a 10-minute conversation that she's been licensed for 30 years, and I just had to be like, "That's sad." Like, I know you're saying that in a way to brag to me that you've been licensed for 30 years, but the way that I'm hearing it, I'm sad for you because I think about all the sellers that you missed out on helping. I'm sad for you that you spent 30 years of your life and you only know this little about real estate, or this only one small fraction of real estate. I feel bad for you because that 30 years is gone and you'll never get it back. And so it's just, and this is your stance now after 30 years. It's sad. So I just think that there has to be a pivot at some point. And I feel like me and everybody else, again, just have to help steer the ship back in the right direction.
How can I help you steer your ship to drop some sort of video?
I
That's what I need to know.
don't know what I want to do.
Just a basic, nothing crazy, no sauce, how to get leads, none of that shit. Basic, what is seller finance with Matt Riley? Mr. Matt Riley, seller finance, Mr. Matt Riley, subject to Mr. Matt Riley, understanding wraps, how to protect your sellers, when to use these in different situations, that kind of shit. I feel like that would really benefit a lot of people and you as well. I think that would help you build your brand and authority too.
Yeah, I think you know how my thought process over the last year with this and why, like, it's just one of those things where especially now, like, create, again, going back to that group, there's only one real person that people mention when they talk about it, which is fine. Again, goes to branding and
It's not fine. It's
marketing
not
and all the
fine. It's not. It's not
things.
okay. This is
And
not
so
okay.
when in my mind, when I say, like, oh, like the post I made where I was like, I see too much now and I want to help new individuals in this space. I want to make sure that it's being done the right way because I'm not at that level of notoriety. Like, again, I don't blame
Yet.
people in that position because once you get that big, it's impossible to entertain the masses anymore one-on-one wise, right? So, like, with actual, there's a lot of bad information that gets. I'm going to make a video today on due on sale clause insurance. I'm going to type the phrase in all of the creative groups, and I'm going to screenshot all the posts recently of people asking about due on sale clause insurance, which doesn't exist, and yet it's still being touted as a real thing. And some people are like leaders in the space talking about due on sale clause insurance, which is going to the new people who are now telling sellers and all these people. So there needs to be, so when you're that big, it's impossible for you to see that and go, hey guys, that doesn't exist. That's a video I made 4 or 5 years ago. At that time it was, now it's no longer. So what happens is this person gets so big that they can no longer do one-on-ones and give you, the correct information. So what happens is like the sub leaders of the group start stepping in to start doing those one-on-ones. The unfortunate part is sometimes those people are not the best individuals to be doing it. Maybe they've only personally been in real estate for 2 years themselves or less, or they have some sort of motive to tell you certain things because they have some sort of backing or whatever you want to call it, where I have no allegiance to anybody. I have not paid for any memberships. I'm not in anybody's group, none of those things. I just want to see it done the right way. And I want to give that information correctly so you can do it the right way and feel good about the transactions that you're performing and that you don't have to think about it later. And that way I give you good information, you recite it to somebody else, and good information is getting out there. And I'm not at that point. So if you come back to me a year later and you're like, hey, is this still true? And I'm like, actually, no, that's not still true. Don't tell people that. Here's the new information. Here's the new update, whatever it is. I think it's extremely important for anybody like me to be doing that to get it in the right direction and not doing it for like some self profit purpose, or I paid somebody money so I can't talk a certain way because I paid that person money. And so I have an allegiance to them to only say these things. I got no there's no flag on my ship. I'm a free man who can say whatever. And so I think that again, it just needs to be done correctly because it's the people that are saying it don't have the personal experience. I have people that have, fucked up transactions because they don't know what they're doing. And then I'm the one that's getting the phone calls and I'm the ones so it's just frustrating.
All right, Matt, I know how I'm gonna steer the ship for you. So we're gonna get on a phone call and we're gonna talk about what your creative call is gonna look like. And I'm gonna give you the topic, and the first topic is gonna be sub two, and we'll break down what is sub two from the guy that's actually done it. You can talk about your experience, how many deals you've done, how many you've assigned, all that, the pros and cons of everything. And I think people would really benefit from seeing that, from seeing somebody that's actually doing this business, that's done this business. Now, over the last 6 months, over the last 10 years, I've only done one sub two deal. Sub two deal I did was with Mr. Matt Riley. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows what to do, right? He answered all the questions that I had. And I think he should be the one to break it down, how to understand this. And I think you can do it in a way that delivers a message to people like agents. So when we do send out that email blast, we have something to say, hey, look at this video of this guy that's done all of this in the space, right? To say this is how you can potentially serve your sellers in a way that would benefit them when they're in X situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it where like I'm just not a content person in terms of like the idea of me sitting down and being like, okay, what are the topics of the videos I want to talk
Right.
about?
But
And
you're the
that
content
should
guy, right? Like I'm the same way. Like I don't like to think about, writing stuff on a website, that kind of stuff. But if somebody could tell
yeah.
me just here's the topic, do your thing, dude, you'll run with it.
Well, and that's the way that like I've talked about it with like my wife and other people where like if I were to, she even said like the one day she's like, why don't I just ask you questions and then we'll film it in that way. And that I feel like everybody has that in them where uh if somebody, especially on a topic that you're experiencing, like if somebody asks you a question, it's like being at a party or being at an event, whatever, and someone's like, "What do you do?" and you can give them that 5 minute elevator pitch of like, it's always easier to have like a casual conversation or like a conversation like this, and to be able to go into those things. So if I were to ever do something, it would likely be best served for something like that, because that's way easier. I forget most businessmen have wives.
What are these
Yeah,
comments?
that was like.
That-
I forget most businessmen. It's like businessmen aren't human beings that like. But Ann, are you doing? What time does your session start today?
Sorry, this is the last one. No.
Yeah,
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Yeah, three
I'll be
o'clock.
I'll be there. I gotta support that because, like I said, that gives me What, like, I was watching, I was doing work, but I was listening, and then, like, so you were, like, setting up the CRM and the skip tracing and all of that, and I was like, "Okay, this is legit," and then, like, the second that you actually started cold calling, I was just, like, internally, I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he's
Yeah.
really gonna do this," and then
No,
he
I was literally
really
like
did it,
telling
and he's
people. That's what I was literally
executed
telling them.
it.
I'm like, this is not like a webinar. This is not a master class, right? I'm like,
Oh,
this is a live stream of me doing work, right? Like real work. Like, and I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people were confused for a little bit. They were like, I think they thought they were joining in. They're like, oh, Dan's doing another masterclass. Oh, Dan's doing another thing where he's showing how to set up, the CRM or how to set up, titanskip.com or skip trace your list or whatever. But then they started like settling in. They're like, oh,
ah,
this
dude,
is he's actually no, he's serious. He's actually working. And I was like, yeah, no, this is really
okay.
how it is. Like, this is not gonna be a, come in here and ask me questions and make this a master class. I'm like, I'm literally like streaming the same way that you watch, somebody playing a new game and they're just sitting there going through the game that they've never played before, and people are sitting there just watching them, watching them go to work and inside the game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing the same thing. Like, I'm showing you guys really how it really works and how it really is when, you're working day to day.
I don't think that there's enough, like, understanding of that, like, everybody in here probably has social media and TikTok, whatever. And so, like, somebody can record themselves cold calling over a compilation of a day, and then give you the good calls, in a
Yep.
edited format. Even if it's in a raw format, they can choose which calls they show
Yep.
you, and maybe there was a couple funny ones, but they could show you all the good ones. Like, you are live streaming your cold calls for hours during this period of time. So all of the ins and outs, the good, the bad, like ugly. There's nothing, you cannot hide from any of those calls because you're doing it live in front of an entire audience too. Not just like
Yeah.
doing like again, I give full
Well,
for
I
that because it
noticed
just
I
immediately.
noticed how the viewership started to go down the more real that it got. And
Mm,
Really.
I was like, "Oh, this kind of shows that people don't really want to sit there and listen and watch. They only want to watch the highlights, right? Like, they don't want to even like acknowledge that this is really how it goes, right?" And I'm like, I'm not here like live streaming to show you guys the highlights. Like, I'm live streaming so you guys can come in here, ask me questions, and actually, and sit here. It's not to sit here and get action for 3 hours. It's right. It's a, sit there, watch me work again. You guys call you guys work while I work, right? And in that way, it gives you the ability. If you want to ask me a question, it's like, think of this. If we got 100 people in the live stream room and we're all cold calling leads for 3 hours straight. There's 100 of us in there calling leads for 3 hours. One of us is gonna get on a call with a person who wants to sell today, and somebody in there, if somebody in there is not gonna be able to buy it, somebody in there is probably gonna help you be able to sell it. So get on the phones while we're all on the phones in there. Come in here, get on the phone for those 3 hours. 100 people in the room, we're all making calls nonstop for 3 hours. Somebody's going to get a deal on the phone. I almost guarantee it. Somebody is going to make money during those 3 hours. So you're crazy if you're the one person in there who's just listening and not doing, because if you're not on the phones trying to make something happen, you're literally missing out on the most valuable piece of the live stream, which is literally to be able to interact with everyone else in the audience, including myself. And we can do a lot of stuff. We could literally, like, we could get a deal in live, comp it live. I can help you comp it live on the live stream. We could JV a deal live, talk to a buyer live. Like, there's a million things that we could all do together if you guys just get on the phone with me and dial. Like, don't come in here just to watch. Come in here to work, right? And I promise you, together, like, I'm in here showing you guys what I'm doing, right? But you guys better make sure that you guys are doing. I don't want to just be the only person that's doing.
Yeah, that is true. Like, it definitely shows that it just, again, goes back to, like, that's just human nature of, like, everybody wants it bad until it's actually time to actually do the thing. And when you got into, like, the thick of your, I didn't realize it, but you probably did because you were, but, like, when you started getting to the thick of the cold calling, you start seeing the viewership go down, and it's like, Yeah, people only want to see the highlight reel. So it's like everybody says what they want to say, but it always comes down to the actual data. And the data was showing people are leaving when the actual cold calling began or started getting
Hmm.
into the thick of it. It's like, yeah, you guys just want you just hope that you get a 10,000 person list, and on the fifth call, someone's going to say yes. You go sell that deal for 10 grand,
Yeah, there was
and then you
literally
can go
some
brag
guy
about it.
who asked in the audience. He was like, I think we had like 5 people get on the phone by that point. It's just that we had not gotten like someone who wanted to sell yet. And he was like, "Is this how it normally goes? Like, is anybody going to want to sell their house?" We had been calling for like less than an hour, and this guy said, "Like, is anybody even going to want to sell their house?" And I was like, "Dude, what do you? I mean." If that's the mentality you have, like this is not the thing that you need to be doing. Like you probably not gonna last.
That'll just weed people out then maybe even like they'll see that and go, oh, this is I thought it was something way different. I thought it was the highlight reel that I was seeing on social media or other locations where I was only seeing the good calls and the checks and all of those things. And now I see what you're actually doing, and that's not for me. Or I thought it was something completely different. So it either reframe their brain to more something more realistic, or it's going to make them go, this isn't. I thought this was something way different. I'm not interested in that at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's cool. I would rather people get the reality and not waste their time, right? Like, I'd rather them doing something productive to what they want to do, right? Like I don't want to make a video where people think that it's like they're gonna change their whole entire life in one day. You know what I mean? I know it's like kind of like what it's sold for, but I knew going into this business, I knew I had an idea because I had already been in entrepreneurship for a while. You know what I mean? Like busting my ass doing other things and taking L's and making stuff work and some things didn't work and so I knew I was like, man, there's just no way I'm gonna come into this thing and it's gonna be and I'm gonna make this thing happen real quick. I know this is gonna take time. Like I knew that there was a process behind it, right? Like I knew it wasn't just like as easy as everybody was like trying to make it out to be because I was like, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And I knew a lot of people weren't doing it at that time. Now everybody's trying to do it, but only a few people are succeeding. Yeah, so see, I mean, like, I've made hundreds of calls a day, got nothing but a bunch of answering machines, and disconnected numbers. That I mean, that's how it happens sometimes, and you just gotta power through. It's gonna be day after day, time after time, and um, that's the way that's got to be done.
Okay, well, I got an idea of how I'm going to spend some time today. I want to hop on Facebook. I usually stay off Facebook. I don't really do too much on Facebook, but I think it might be time for a good old cold DM John Johnson to hop back on Facebook, shoot out a couple cold DMs, and let some people know if they really want to take this business seriously. There's an opportunity to come and learn how to wholesale step by step with Dan Fazio today.
There we go,
I
John
think,
Johnson,
and I think you doing
ODM.
that too, always reminder that like you never know who's going to be in this Discord in terms of future business, in terms of whatever. So always trying to come correct in the chats and in the live streams and everything else because you just never know. It could be a real estate agent in your market that you could do business with in the future. It could be a mortgage lender. It could be who knows. I mean, obviously, be yourself, and if you care about that stuff, cool. If not, cool then too. But you just never know, especially with John doing outreach to all the individuals in this space that have been in here too, like the big dogs all the way down to the regular folk. And so you just never know who's going to be in here.
And I'll tell you what, I connected with one guy. It's so powerful. You know, what I was saying earlier about you're never too good to do the work, that gets you started. I connected with one guy who is the self-acclaimed trap house buyer, trap house Texas buyer. I don't know if you've seen that guy on Instagram.
What something Jackson or was it? I got his name. Ryan
Let me check.
Jackson
That's the guy. I got a call with
out of
him. He said he
Texas, right?
was out of Texas. Yep. I got a call with him today. He said he was getting interviewed by OANN, something like that. Let me pull it up. Mm,
Yeah, he's
mm.
the definition of like I like him because when I said like if you care about what people think, cool. If not, like be who you are. Like that's a dude that is who he is. Like he has
Yeah,
built an entire business model and brand awareness out of being the trap house king and buying trap houses essentially around Texas and converting them into Airbnbs or flips and rehabs. And his entire social media presence is just him being him.
yeah. It goes to show. Look, we got our Austin Carpin in the chat right now. Look, I met Austin at an event like 2 years back, maybe 2.5 years ago. All right. I've been posting about my calls on Instagram. Okay. Austin hits me up. He said, John, I've got leads I want you to call. He's giving me leads to call. Now I'm calling these leads. We already locked one up under contract on Novation. I locked it up live on Instagram so people can actually see how I make these calls and talk to people live. And we're looking at if it sells, at the price point, we're hoping that it sells at, it should be about a 30K assignment. So he wouldn't have to talk to anybody. He just sent me the lead and he's going to get paid up at closing if we can get this deal closed. These are the types of opportunities you will run into if you're putting yourself out there, if you're getting loud, if you're making yourself be known. There's nobody up here that has any greater opportunity to take advantage of the community than anybody else attending this call. You can get in the chat, let yourself be known, reach out to people, tell people where you're at, what you're doing, what you want to do, how you can help others. And people, just post about what you're doing and people will gravitate to you. It's that simple. And if you're in here just trying to get to your first deal, get your first deal, get that check mark next to your name, start closing, start helping people, really add value to the community. People will recognize that and want to do business with you. But ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, you do now. This is the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. If you haven't already, please consider inviting somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us by sending them the link discord.gg/REI Rev.
Make some Instagram posts today, folks, of the live stream. We get enough posts going, might do a giveaway. Might
Ooh,
get a giveaway going.
I like it. Tag Dan, tag REI Rev.
Tag the link. Get people in. You guys
Fantastic.
you guys don't DM me. Don't ask me for a course. Don't ask me for mentorship. You know what I mean? Don't just join the live stream. It's free. Why would you want to pay for my mentorship when you could literally just come in here for 3 hours and talk to me for free? like, like that's bananas. Don't do it to yourself. Don't pay thousands
Mm-hmm.
of dollars just to get my time when you can literally come into the live stream, work with me side by side. This is an offer. Not even my mentees. They don't even get this.
Step
Dalton
by
Dalton
step.
doesn't even get this. Dalton doesn't even get he doesn't even get to work side by side with me every single day.
Don't sleep on this opportunity, y'all.
Don't sleep. See you guys at 3 o'clock.
See you there.
Peace.